On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1970. We're going to be taking a look at Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and they're going to be performing Down by the River. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another live analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So thank you guys for joining me tonight for this analysis. As always, we're going to be getting into the performance video, and I will be jumping in about halfway through. So there's going to be a link in the description below that you can click on if you want to watch it the whole way through without me interrupting it. But let's get the guys up on screen and see how they get on. I'm just going to jump in here. What I love about this performance is the fact that it's totally live and you've got three guys at the front of the stage all playing guitars, and we have the intro, the verse, the chorus, and then we're just into an extended lead guitar solo section where you've got so much work going on with the playing, but on that fretboard, we are going to be getting into that at the end of the video. This is one of those that was very difficult to stop because when you've got two guys playing lead guitar and also trading guitar lines with each other, It's something that they wouldn't have rehearsed exactly how that went. It's just something that Stephen and Neil in this performance would have been feeling, and then just going straight with the rhythm at the end, and then coming out of that solo back into a verse. And it's not something that you see nowadays, let alone just live performances and having this amount of talent in a band, full stop. But having players who are so proficient with their instruments that they can just have effectively a jam in the middle of a live performance. What you'll find nowadays is that everything is so pre-planned and pre-rehearsed that there will be a very definite section for any solos and then they move on, and it could even be argued that nowadays there aren't even really solo sections that are being performed by the main artist. They might go over to another musician to have a little solo section, but then that would be it, and it would be then to the artist at the front of the stage. But we've got so much going on here from so many different perspectives, because vocally we've got all of these ranges going on. And just to mention that this is one of Neil's songs, and having the backing harmonies in there as well adds so much to it from the angle of dynamically we've got the verse, and it's going to be very understated. We'll get into the rhythm on the guitar later, because dynamically there's a lot more space in the verse with the rhythm as well, because it starts off pretty straight but then gets a little bit syncopated towards the end of the strumming pattern. But when we're talking about dynamically, the way that the vocals work, having the chorus and coming all in with the vocals and the harmonies, then into this extended lead guitar solo section, and then by the end of the song we have the harmonies that are going to be coming in from Stephen joining Neil in the verse. So there's always something that is just being added as we progress through the song, and that's vocally as well as instrumentally. Let me just throw in here, thank you for the donations that happened early on before this video, Orlando, Terry and Deborah as well. It is much appreciated. I am going to be continuing on with the analysis, and we'll work our way through it just as normal. But talking about the ranges here that I mentioned vocally, we've got Neil pretty much up there in the male tenor range. We're going to be touching a G4 here, and when we're listening out for those harmony vocals, I think you'll hear Graham in the background, Graham Nash on organ here as well, filling in so much of the sound. And this is the great thing about having talented musicians and singers, is you're going to get such a great sound live, because you've got the voices that are just working in unison and harmonizing with each other. And when I mention about 3 voices at the front of the stage, Graham's voice is behind that organ, so we have got 4 going on. But when they're all added together, they're perfectly in key, and Graham's going to be hitting an A4 here. So his is the highest harmony that you can hear in the background. But as you guys will probably know from my other analysis videos, you'll know that all of these guys have great voices independently, and I think I've probably done a lot of videos in the past on Neil Young and his guitar playing, but also just the whole band when they got together. I know that Neil and maybe the rest of the band didn't really get on off the stage, but when they got on the stage, there was a lot of chemistry there musically, and a great example with the solo that we just watched, just trading lines, and it's something that you don't see all the time. Let me also just throw into the equation, when I mention about guitarists having a totally different sound, even though they might be playing through similar tones, this is another great example of that, because we've got Neil Young, who approaches his lead playing in a totally different way, so the way that Stephen Stills does. And the way that Neil approaches it, when it's him playing, you know that it's him playing, even if you're not watching the video. And that is something that I think every guitarist wants to try and achieve, is getting their own sound when they play lead guitar. So this is why that trade-off between Stephen and Neil is so engaging, because you can hear the 2 voices of the separate guitarists, and their approach to playing, but also their personalities going through those guitars. And again, we're going to be looking at that at the end of the video, so we'll jump into it again. We haven't got too much longer to go. We'll watch it until the end and then we'll get the guitar out, but let's get back into it. And there we have it. So let's get the guitar out and start breaking some of this down, because we've got such a difference in the way that it's being played from the verse, then into the pre-chorus, and then into the chorus. So let me try and get the guitar out without knocking anything over. Hopefully you guys will be able to see this. If I get rid of the other screen, there we go. So we're going to be jumping into the chords to begin with. We're probably going to be starting with our E minor 7th shape. You can play an E minor here, but we've got this rhythm that's in there. Like I said, it's a little bit syncopated when we get the muted strumming in there. So we've got this, and hopefully you can hear my guitar okay in the background. So all of those upstrokes, you can listen out actually for those muted strums in there, because it just keeps it moving along nicely in the verse. And A is the other chord that you're going to be needing in the verse in terms of our progression. And it's good to throw in all of those muted strums because it'll keep it moving along, but it's pretty much just having those gaps in there. That's the most important thing about this verse, because that leaves you somewhere to go dynamically. The other thing is that when we have our break off into the pre-chorus, we've got this C major 7th shape, and if you want to, you can add that G in the 3rd fret on that high E string. And the strumming is very much very reserved compared to that strumming that we just had in the verse. So this is what I'm talking about when I mention light and shade in a performance. From the dynamic perspective, playing on the guitar, we've already got that light and shade between the verse and the pre-chorus. And once we've got this progression from our same thing again. By the way, I know that on the internet sometimes it's referred to as being a straight B minor, but I think that B minor 7th just sits in there ever so slightly better than the straight B minor. But when we get into that, just downstrokes here, down, 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 down. And if you want to even exaggerate that change dynamically even more, you can have that slightly slower downstroke with the strumming, because it's just lulling you in for the chorus. It's bringing you down before we then get into the C major 7th. And then we've got that D. And then we're into our chord progression for the chorus, which is going to be our G, D, and then that little delay going to the A. So all of the strumming here, you can hear how open it is compared to the pre-chorus. Like I said, you're just waiting for that explosion into the chorus, and it's literally just going to be our downstrokes. Down, 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 down. Like that. And another thing that you'll see is Stephen just supplying little lead lines just between our chords, and especially on that A as well. All of that kind of stuff with our... And you can start to throw in whatever you want. That is just an example. I'm sure that that's not exactly what Stephen's throwing in there, but just to give you an idea of the notes and that major pentatonic shape 1 that he's going to. Like that. So you've got all of your notes in there. And another thing that I'm going to refer to with our lead shapes is the way that we're always going to be using these same shapes. And because when we get into our main solos, we're going to be in E minor, we've got this whole shape up at the top, pentatonic shape 1. You guys probably already know this. If you've got your guitars out, you can go straight to that 12th fret. And we're just going to be, you know, there's a lot of barring going on here, which means just barring with that 3rd finger on the 14th fret, 1st finger on the 12th fret, and that's where we get that little interchange between Stephen and Neil. They're playing this and really going for it. Another thing is the way that Neil sometimes supplies a lot of vibrato, but with his whammy bar, and you hear it if you're going... He very much goes for that faster frequency, and it's going to make it sound more excitable. And that's certainly the sound that you get from Neil's overall lead guitar playing. It's very much that introduction of vibrato pretty much all the time with that. So whenever you hear that wobble, that is that whammy bar that Neil is going to. But when you're approaching this from a dynamic perspective, when you get to that chorus, I mean, you could even turn down your volume a little bit on your guitar for the verses to make it even more dramatic getting into the chorus. I've got mine just turned up all the way because I want you guys to hear the guitar, and hopefully you can hear it and it's all fine. But it's something to mention as well about the lead shapes and the fills that are going on here, because when we've got our G shape, you'll find that going over to our D, I'm going to take the chorus chords here to the A. You'll find that here, if I was playing a nice major pentatonic line there because I'm in G, if I go over to D, exactly the same notes, and now as soon as I go to the A, if I play the same, it just sounds like it's not quite where it should be. And I think personally that you don't need to know any music theory or know any scales to know that the last line wasn't quite there. So your brain is telling you that something wasn't quite right. And with the G, when we get into... I'm just in my major pentatonic shape there, just extending up the guitar, going into the D here. I'm now in my major pentatonic shape 1, but playing all the notes from D, and I'm talking about the scales in D and the scales in G. So everything's fine because the notes that I've just played have been overlapping. As soon as you get to A, and I go and try and play those same notes, it doesn't really work, because if I take just down a semitone from what I was playing earlier, we're now playing notes from our A major scale. So I've changed the note to fit in with the A. And I know that I am breaking this down, and it sounds like my guitar's going ever so slightly out of tune because of the slightly warming up room, but we will busk our way through it. But just to explain what I'm talking about with the G, hopefully you can start to hear the principle behind the leads that are being chosen, or the notes of the leads, the sections that are being chosen here by Stephen, because it's all about the chord underneath and the notes that you want to go for. And you can't just, I mean, it would be great if you're going to stay in one shape the whole time. And you can sometimes, if, for example, you're just going between the E minor, you could just stay in that minor pentatonic the whole time if you wanted to. But when we get into the chorus and we're playing more fills than lead, it's good to go with the chords, because it means that G, here, D, A. So you're changing your fills to the notes from the chords that you're playing that are going on underneath all of your lead notes and your lead fills. So hopefully that makes sense, but we've got so much going on from a guitar perspective here, and just sometimes when Stephen does move up, you'll see that he doesn't always spend his time in this A position down at the bottom. I'm barring across with that first finger to play my A. You can play it with the first, second and third finger, but you'll find that when you do bar over with the A, you can get straight into your fill shapes and your lead notes really easily, rather than having to make that shift up and then back down to your chord. Obviously, you want to make sure you don't go as high as the E string on that strumming, so that you get a nice sound of an A, and you don't want any other notes going on. So once you've got that down, you might find that Stephen is making a little bit of a movement up, and he'll be taking notes from the major scale, but where you would be playing an A minor pentatonic shape. And this is why it's always good to know where your major notes are within your minor pentatonic shape 1, because you'll start to recognize them all the time. When we go, that's the minor shape, and if I was to hammer on there with the second finger, you get that little tweak of classic blues lines, but you'll start to hear that little bit of positivity thrown in there. You know, you don't have to throw that in at the end, but you've got that little tweak towards the major key, and that's what Stephen's doing when he's going up. He's not playing blues lines here, but he's just taking those almost throw it in there, but he's throwing in the major notes and the major scale. But if you think he's going to that minor pentatonic, he's not. He's just taking those notes in order to get it to fit in there. But it's something that when you're analyzing it and trying to play along yourself, it can be confusing to know, especially the notes that are being played, if you only know the minor pentatonic shape 1. But it's going to be the same shape. That's the other great thing, that when we're playing in G, all of the notes that we're playing here are exactly the same as E minor, which is also in this song. And that's because, musically speaking, they're relatives. That's what they're called, relative chords, which means that they share the same notes in their scales. So it means that if you're playing in G, you can play all of your major lead fill lines if you want to, and then as soon as you go into E minor, then you've got exactly the same notes that you're playing. And that goes for all of the shapes in G, all of the shapes in E. Like when I said about being in pentatonic shape 1 up at the top here and playing, and being in E minor, like that. If I was in G, then I'm playing exactly the same notes. It's exactly the same shape, but your brain is organizing it for you as to how you hear those notes. Because when you play them in G, it all sounds happy and positive. As soon as we go to E minor, it will now sound a little bit more somber, a little bit more depressing, because it's that minor key. The important thing is to end on the root note of your chord. So here, when I was playing, those are my E's that I'm ending on because I'm playing an E minor. When I'm playing a G, I'm playing up. That is now a G that I'm ending on. So as a rule of thumb, when you start playing lead guitar, if you end on the root note of the chord, then you're pretty much set to go, because you can play all kinds of runs and all kinds of lead lines and always resolve it at the end. That's what it's called, resolving your lead lines. But we've got a great performance here. I know that I've been talking a lot about guitar, and I try and keep these videos, the live analysis videos, just under half an hour in length, or around that kind of period. So we are getting towards the end of this live analysis, but the things to look out for in this performance, just great vocals across the board. But the most important thing guitar-wise, dynamically, you want to keep it low in the verse, and when you've got those, just keeping it really reserved with that strumming, keeping those muted strums going in there as well, as you then build up into that pre-chorus. You can get a little bit more deliberate with that right hand, and then just lay into it for the chorus when you got that. Like that, just go for it. From a dynamic perspective with that right hand, really let go. Just to mention that timing, we've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So make sure that if you are counting it, that you come in on 2 there rather than coming in on the 1, because you want to make sure that you don't jump the gun, because that's what's going on here with the live performance. If you just come in on 1, it's going to sound a little bit weird when you go to the A, because the whole band aren't coming in on the 1. So you want to make sure that you get that right. But anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in for this live analysis. If you want to have a go at some of the lead going on here, then Stephen's going to be playing around the E minor extended pentatonic shape. All of those kind of notes. And when we get into the part where they're exchanging lines, that's where we've got this. And also the way that Neil, he'll be doing these downstrokes and playing in minor pentatonic shape 1 here, 12th fret, that I mentioned earlier, but he's got this tendency to really stay on single notes and not really do lots of extended lines. In fact, if you listen to the original of this song, he just plays an E and kind of plays it and makes it more syncopated and gets so much out of one note at the beginning of the solo. If you do get a chance to listen to that original record, it is going to be longer than this. This is very much a 4TV performance. I think the original is around 9 or 10 minutes in length, that original record. But listen out for the beginning of the solo, because Neil does that. He just stays on one note, and it's very much the definition of you don't need a million notes to sound good. With that, it's just the expression in the pick and just going for it, putting that emphasis on every single note and not wasting any notes. So that's something to listen out for on that original record. We don't have that here because it's a shorter performance, so you have to try and squeeze as much lead as you can into the amount of time they've got to play on TV. And when you are trying to play along here, like I said, 12th fret and 14th fret, bar those down. And also that kind of pick, pull off technique we've got, you'll be able to listen out for it and you'll be able to hear it. And there is just being really aggressive with those downstrokes, but it's got so much expression in there, and that's what playing lead guitar is all about. And especially being able to tell two separate players' techniques and overall sounds apart, and that is definitely something that we can do with this live performance. But thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight for this live analysis, and thank you as well for all of the donations that came in. We had another one from Paul, thank you for that, and we had Thace as well, and Liz, and Emily, and Marilyn, and Silver Streak 7878. So thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and all of you in that live chat room. I hope you enjoyed this live analysis. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I do these every Wednesday night, the same time as my live streams on a Tuesday and a Saturday, but for these live analysis videos, it's 12 midnight Greenwich Mean Time, so you can have a look at your time zone and organize that in order to catch it every week. But I hope you have enjoyed this one, and as this is my last live stream before Christmas, have a fantastic Christmas, everyone. And I'm going to be back again next week. I pretty much am getting back into the normal schedule after a couple of days, so Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and then we'll be back into it on Saturday. So I'll see you guys then. I hope you have a fantastic Christmas and stay safe, get your guitars out wherever possible, and just rock out as much as you can as well. But this is a great one to have a little rock out too, with the E minor pentatonic shape 1, but also to throw in those fill shapes as well. So have a great Christmas, everyone, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!